Hey guys, welcome back to Thunderdome Homestead. Some of you may have seen a previous video of mine talking about, I believe it was something to the effect of the worst lessons from the worst weekend of my life. And in that video, you heard several stories, one of which being that my boat tire blew going down the highway on my boat trailer. And subsequently, I had to leave the boat there, drive 2 hours back with a new tire, and fix it on the side of the highway. Well, during that process, half of one of the fender wells blew off, along with the trailer light with it. So I am building new wheel fender wells for both sides because if I make one and leave the other one, it's going to look stupid. There's no sense. It'll look nicer, and I have all the material to do it anyway. So, we're going to go through the process of welding and fabricating a new wheel fender well. I already have one done. I'm going to show you here in a second the difference between the old and new. Okay, so here you see the old one. And this here's the one that broke. You can see it happened right around the same spot where this crack is. So I'm assuming that is a defect that both of them had because it's in the same spot. And it's also fairly safe to assume that this one's going to meet a similar fate if I let it go for too much longer. I already got the wheel off. I already got it up on a jack stand. And it's ready. All I gotta do is torch off this bolt and these two bolts. And then it'll be ready to go. Alright, this here is the new one. Here is the new wheel. And the other fender well that I made. Welded, painted, all that. New hardware to mount it. And I have to wire in this trailer light. So I need to get a self-tapping screw. Run it probably like that. And then I gotta solder these wires together. And put some heat shrink tubing around them. And that part will be done. Alright, so I've told you guys in the past, building things is an important skill to learn. If I were to go out and buy these, it would cost over $100. Me building them costs less than $30. So, what I have to work with here is this chunk of 1/8 inch diamond plate. I went to my local steel supplier and they sell what's called drops. So basically this is kind of like plywood. It comes in a 4x8 full sheet, and if someone only needs so much, they'll only buy so much, or if they're bidding a job or something and custom making the parts, what they'll do is they'll do the fabrication part, and then whatever's left over at the end is your drop. And they'll oftentimes keep those and sell those to people. So this here was a I don't know, 11 inch, 12 inch, so roughly 1 foot by 4 foot drop. And this came off of a full sheet. So you can see also that I already scavenged off of this one, and the fender well outside is part of the sheet. So I'm going to walk you through the process now of building the second fender well. Alright, so I'm laying out my cuts. The fender well itself is going to be 7 inches wide. I'm going to mark on each end here 7 inches. Then I'm going to take my level and use it as a straight edge. Line up the dots and make my mark. So this piece here is going to be the next fender well. Actually, I need to adjust that. But stay tuned. Okay, now we're ready to cut. I'm going to take a trusty grinder with a cut-off wheel and cut this piece. Okay, piece is cut up down to size. So what you see, this burr here, I like to keep things as clean as possible. So I'm going to clean this up real quick with my sand wheel grinder pad. Alright, way cleaner. The next thing to do is lay out where I'm going to be making my cuts. Because typically I would have what's called a press brake. That is something that bends steel plate like this. I have one, but it is not here. So the centerpiece that goes on the top is going to be 12 inches and each side is going to be 6 inches. So I'm going to measure in 6 inches. Make little marks. Come back in with this square. And make a mark. Now you see here, 6 inch, 6 inch, 12 inch. I'm going to take this cutting wheel and I am going to put a score mark on each of these lines. I'm going to cut it about half to 3/4 of the way through. What this does is makes it easier to put a bend on in a straight line. So stand by. Clamp it down. That score mark is about 1/2 to 3/4 of the way through. I'm going to do the same thing here, and I'll show you the bending process. Alright, so what you see here is how I bend. So that score mark is right here on the edge of the table. I have this piece of 1-inch square tubing clamped down directly behind that score mark. I have a piece of heavy plate set down back here. I have it clamped back here, and I have it clamped on both sides here. So that should be good. Now all I have to do is push down. And you can see there, I have roughly a 45-degree angle. You might need to touch it up a hair, but I will check it. Okay, you have one of these types of squares. You see this angle right here is a 45, so I can check it actually just like that. Or I could check it on the other side like that. But it seems to be about a 45-degree angle. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And then I'm going to pull the torch out and scavenge the bracket off of the other fender well. Alright, so we're out here by the boat. I've torched off the bolts. You see here, this is the bracket. It's still hot. Ooh, actually still warm. But this here, this bracket right here is the one that I need. So I'm going to have to torch these welds off. There's 4 of them. And then I'll take this part, I'll clean it up, hammer these bolts out. Alright, now that I get this fender off, I am going to torch out these welds. Alright, you hear how it sounds like a gentle breeze and not like this, right? Another thing too is there's about 7 cones, kind of hard to see, but you want those cones to be about a 1/4 inch long on this particular torch and just be nice and even, not too long. So I'm gonna run this until it starts glowing. Now I have my pierce hole. Now what I can do is run along it. And that weld is gone. Sorry, you couldn't see it that well. Smoke it. I'm going to torch these other 2 off. This bracket should come right off. The welds are torched out. This bracket is off. You can see where the welds were. Next step is to clean this up because you can't weld without a good conductive electrical connection. So all this rust and dirt and all that is no bueno. Okay, part's cleaned up. You can see it's pretty rusted, pitted, but it's cleaned up. So now we have time to lay out. So what we're going to do here is we are going to take this 12 inches. We're going to measure about 6 right there, midway, right in the middle. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to measure 3/4 inch this way because I need a bit of an offset. Alright. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my part, mock it up, and tack it on. Plug in my welder. So what I'll do is I'll throw that offset in. Mock that up and just center it like that. And that is where we are. Let me move this so it doesn't potentially mess up the phone. Alright, part's tacked on, so clean that up a little bit, and it's weld time. I think I'm going to move you over here. Couple welds later, we have your part. So weld there, weld there, weld it all around that. And everything's all cleaned up. Now it's time to paint. Alright guys, so we are completely finished. Here's the final product. I got it painted, a nice shade of gloss black. I got it mounted. I got it all wired in. Verified that the trailer lights work. They do. This side, a little more of the same. But yeah, that's one more thing off the to-do list. I got a trailer that can go on the road, and a boat that can go on the water. So it's time for me to get out fishing anyway. Alright guys, if you got something out of this, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.